I'm not interested in the games that you play on sub day with CP.
I can't make shadow puppets. Woof. Woof.
And that was the weather with Connor. Over to you, Connor. Thanks, Connor. Interesting stuff, Connor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first installment of PandaKing's Corner, where we will be interviewing multiple Escape from Tarkov content creators, understanding what about the game they love and what about the game they hate. First up, Mr. Veritas. Right after this word from our sponsors. We don't have sponsors. Just play something.
In a world of dating apps, matchmaking, makeups, and breakups, there's one word that brings joy to the most eligible of bachelors, simultaneously warming the heart and the loins. Fleshlight. Fallen out of a long-term relationship? Fall into a fleshlight. Your donger will thank you over and over again. Forget the callous heart and touch of Mrs. Palmer and her 5 daughters. Fleshlight is your customizable schlong sleeve that will keep you up while never letting you down. Enter the code KINGS at checkout to receive an exclusive tutorial video by me. Fleshlight. Love your donger.
All right, welcome back to PandaKing's Corner. And here we have Mr. Veritas. So, Veritas, let's jump right into it. So, how long have you been playing Tarkov?
Let's see. I started in January of 2018, which is around like the 0.5 patch. So what has that been, like a year and 5 months? Yeah, so about 17 months I think I've been playing.
Okay, seems good. And so, because you've been here since 0.5 and we're now on 0.11, almost 0.12 June TM, what has been your favorite or least favorite patch this entire time?
Oof. My favorite was probably the 0.8 era, which I think is probably less popular than a lot of folks. But that's when I really came into like my own in the game and really started to feel confident and was running like Fort Fast, running around like a psychopath, killing everybody. I had like 30, 40 win streaks. My KD was like 20. That's like, it was a lot more Call of Duty, I think, than it is today. But yeah, I definitely felt like a god running around in the 0.8 days.
Yeah, there's I heard some people the other day talking about 0.8 and how it was very Call of Duty-esque, and they actually missed that. But that being said, a while ago there was rumors of an arena mode. I don't know if you've heard that.
I have, yeah.
Would you like to see something like that implemented, where there's no gear lost, but it's just combat-based fighting?
Selfishly, yes, but I'm worried that the player base is so limited that splintering it, like it already seems like it's hard enough getting into raids, like full raids, even prime time, like Eastern time. If I hop into factory to try to like, get some quests done or something, it's like there's nobody in there, so
maybe 4 people.
Yeah, I mean, especially I'm trying to do the Insomnia quest. I've been going into factory nighttime, which around this time in most patches, that used to be the end game. Night factory was where all the juicy boys would go, fully decked out, Fort Fast, night vision, RSASs, M4s, whatever, and they'd just be farming scavs or whatever. And I think I did maybe 30 raids over the last 3 days, and I found 2 hatchlings, and I couldn't find another PMC. So the arena mode, I'm worried, would fracture it even more. But then there's also the plus side of it would bring in potentially a whole other crowd that might trickle into the whole raid side of things. So it's really impossible to know.
What if for arena you had to buy a key card? Like arena was a map, and you had to buy a key card like you have to do for labs, and that way people still have to do raids every now and again to get money to go to these arenas.
See, if I were to put money in to the arena, I would expect to get like all of the money out, like a poker match.
So if you win, you get your money back. If you lose,
you get your money back and everybody else's money. Like everybody's putting their money into the pot, going all in. I would like that. Now, even if there was like a 20% fee or something, I'd be fine with that. But there's got to be something you get out of arena mode. Like if you don't get anything as a reward and you don't lose anything, it just becomes like practice mode. You know what I mean? Like it would be interesting for content, it would be fun to play, but there'd be zero. I feel like there needs to be some progression there. Maybe it's a leaderboard, I don't know, but something.
Interesting. I mean, I definitely would like to see the arena mode or something like more combat based. But for Insomnia, let me just tell you, Labs has a rotating time clock. So if you go onto Labs at the right time, you can actually sneak your Insomnia kills in there.
So I heard that. And I couldn't strongly validate whether or not that was the case. I believe everybody that's telling me that, but anytime I went into the raids when I thought it was like the nighttime, I either didn't run into any players, or I got insta killed by a scav or insta killed by somebody who was questionable.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not sure, but I might have to do that some more. The problem is that the rotating timers, the window is actually not that big, so a lot of times you're like, well, I just can't complete this quest unless I do Night Factory. I can't do it for another hour or whatever, so
Yeah, that's the rotating time clocks in game. I feel like they move way too fast for how the time actually moves in raid.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like I want it to be a little bit slower, so that way that night cycle, especially considering there's so many tasks locked behind certain time zones, it needs to be slowed down a little bit. I can't be, if I was to go on customs and kill scavs with a Mosin at what, 2300 to 400, I think is when it is. It's the same for Insomnia. I shouldn't only have about an hour to 2 hours of in real life time to actually complete that task.
Yeah, I wonder, are all the times linked for all the maps?
Yes.
Or do they? Yeah. So I wonder if I guess it doesn't. It would make sense when there's like one map and it's all connected to have it all be the same time. But I kind of feel like, if there's 6 maps, they should divide it up so that they're like in 4-hour or 5-hour like overlapping chunks, so that there's always a night map. There's always a time available. I feel like that'd be fairly trivial to pull off. Although I say that and it would probably break everything. But that would get around at least that issue. I think Night Labs would be fucking rad. Imagine Night Labs, it was just like nearly pitch black with like very little lights. Like Factory, every other map at nighttime is not dark enough to where night vision is even practical unless you're like in the dorms at customs. But if you're outside, it's actually like a pretty bright. Now Factory, on the other hand, is totally pitch black except for all the giant neon lights, half of which you can't shoot out. So even the most expensive, like the GP NVGs that are like $1,800, it's AIDS looking through them. You're just like walking around squinting because it's so painful. They need to really work on the night, whether or not they like give you like a nighttime XP bonus, or maybe there's more scavs or more loot or something. They need to motivate people to play nighttime. They can't just force them to do it through quests, because that's shitty.
Yeah. Actually, the sad thing is that the quad lens night vision actually performs worse than the one that you can buy from Peacekeeper, the blue lens one.
Really?
Yes, it performs worse. You can see a lot more with the blue.
Okay, I might have to check those out. I haven't. Have they changed them since they first came out?
But here's the thing about it: you cannot wear a helmet.
Oh, it's like that ugly head mount thing.
Yes.
To me, the helmets. 10%
Helmets
of
at this point in the
helmets
game
matter unless you have a face shield. In my opinion, like if I wear a helmet without a face shield, I don't feel like I'm wearing a helmet.
I've gotten pretty lucky the past few days.
I have too. I've definitely gotten some ricochets off the helmet. That's not to say I still don't feel safe. All it's going to take is some buckshot. It's not hard with some buckshot from like a medium distance to pepper my face, and to do enough damage to kill me. So
yeah. All right. So that being said, the best and worst features you've ever seen in.
Yeah. So I think probably the best that was really the biggest game changer was when they introduced the face hitbox. Because I remember walking up to somebody with a kiver, and you'd have like a, you know, a shrimp or a gratch or whatever, 9mm, and you would just load into their face and their head and do no damage because there was no blunt damage. There was no face hitbox. They were just completely impossible to kill unless you sprayed their legs, which was never, it was never like my, I so many years of playing first person shooters, I've been trained to aim for the either center mass or the head. That aiming for the legs seems so backwards to me. So as soon as they added the face hitbox, that was like the giant equalizer that made it so effectively anybody could kill anybody as long as they have either no face shield or a fairly decent round. But then again, on the flip side, probably the worst feature ever implemented was the face hitbox also, because some of the helmets, you constantly have to trade off between being able to see or being able to hear. It's a little bit better lately, but it doesn't feel great wearing the helmets that don't let you wear like Comtacs or Stordens. Really, the only one I feel good wearing is the airframe.
Because of the chops.
Because of the chops, yeah. So often you'd wear the fast MT, and it's impossible to know. The problem is that it's impossible to know. It's a double-edged sword. It's impossible to know if, when you get shot in the face, wearing a fast MT with like a mandible, like it used to be the meta, if they hit you in like the eye slit, if that's even a thing, or they hit you in the ear, or they hit you underneath, like in the chin. I don't know how the hitboxes are modeled, how realistic they are, honestly. But there's so many questions about how you actually died, and it makes you constantly think twice about like, is this $2,000 $200K? Is this worth me investing all this money in something where I can still die to a pistol? Is it broken, or do I need to do something differently? Do I need to wear, do I need to wear the chops versus the ear flaps versus the mandible, or the full face shield, or whatever? And that contributes to so much of the people either saying that the armor bug is a thing, or that the game is broken or whatever. Because honestly, we don't know if it's broken, or we don't know if it's just the way that helmets are implemented. So like I said, the face hitbox is a double-edged sword for sure.
Most definitely. I remember coming back. I took a little break from Tarkov and I came back. I remember the fast MT. Pretty much you just couldn't kill it. Face shields weren't really a thing. Although they were in game, they didn't actually show on screen. There was no downside to using them.
Nobody wore them either.
Yeah, and so everybody just wore the mandibles, and the mandibles used to stop bullets. When I came back, mandibles no longer stopped bullets. I was shocked because I killed a guy. I came back pretty late in the patch, killed a guy with a fast MT on, and put it on, and then I got PM'd in the mouth, and I was like, how the hell did I just die?
Yeah.
So what is something that you'd like to see added? Either guns, medication, different features?
The thing that I've wanted the longest, that I hope is actually going to be in point 12 they've announced, is the being able to like customize a loadout and like pre-save it. Although it seems like it's going to be just customizing a gun build. I wanted the ability to say like, here's my like assault kit, and say Sorden's helmet. Here's the gun with all the attachments. Here's the balaclava and my rig, and I want my IFAK here and my morphine here, but I want them hotkeyed. Like, be able to do basically like build your PMC and save that. That's what I've wanted for the longest time, and it would make every shitty part of this game. It all comes down to like, my frustration with it always comes down to, I hate being in my inventory. I just want to play the game, especially when I'm streaming, right? You feel like the pressure of like, play the game. Why are you in the menu? Being able to hit two buttons and get back into a game is going to be a game changer. Now, it looks like they're implementing at least saving gun builds, which
honestly takes some of the longest time.
Yeah, I mean, typically what I'll do is I'll build like 15, 16 guns at a time, and then save them away, and it lasts me like a stream. And then I'm out like a bajillion dollars, and after I die a bunch, then I don't have any more guns. But yeah, it'd be really nice to just be able to hop out of a raid, especially if I just got one tap, then I died right after spawning. It's like, okay, hit a button, spend the money, get back into a raid as quickly as possible. I mean, that's the biggest thing with like BRs and other games is all the downtime. I want to play the game, So that's what I'm most looking forward to. I really want a 1911 and 45, the 45 caliber. Oh God, having 1911 would reinvigorate my desire to use pistols again.
A nice 45 ACP 1911. Oh yeah.
I mean, we're being able to get like a stainless slide or like a really. Oh my God, I can imagine all these beautiful custom things that they could do.
I mean, at least we're getting the Beretta M9, I believe.
Yeah, the least exciting handgun on planet Earth.
The most common military pistol to ever exist pre-2010.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, at least we're getting that. I mean, yeah. I know people that have been talking about wanting to get revolvers like 357, 44s, 45s.
I don't care much about those, to be honest. I mean, they'll be cool, but I don't know. I'm like less hyped about guns these days. I'm so jaded. I feel like there's so much of the spine, the soul of the game is either ill-defined or undefined or poorly defined, and I can't tell which it is. And the more people complain about maps and guns, the more I feel like people are complaining about the wrong things. And a year from now they're going to release 1.0 and it's going to be the game as it is today with a bunch more bugs, a lot more annoying shit, a bunch of shitty quests, and a ton of really awesome guns.
Well, I mean, The thing is that they have said that the quests are placeholders, which is fine by me if they're placeholders, but for the love of God, if they're placeholders, don't make them terrible placeholders. Stress level 13. Who in their freaking right mind is going to get stress level 13 normally? Who didn't cheese that? I mean, seriously. I hit level. I
don't even know what my stress level is. I don't ever pay attention to my skills. Honestly, I've never in my life ever, I don't even know how to even level up most of them. So I'm level 11 in stress resistance.
It's by getting shot. That's the getting shot, taking damage while not on painkillers.
And you have to get to 13.
You have to get to 13. It's
take me 100 years.
Something like 850 skill point. And you get about 0.4 for every jump you do on 2 black legs.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
So it's
so everybody just blacks out their legs and jumps around. Is that how they all cheese it?
There was a video. I'm not sure if this is still a valid method. You would jump off the tower in the southwest corner of Interchange, and there is a barrel on fire not far from there. Take a painkiller, run over there. Your legs need to be blacked, and you need to have a fresh wound, as well as need to have blacked your arms, your chest, and your head, but your stomach cannot be blacked out. And then you would jump on top of the barrel and heal your stomach repeatedly. You would die from fatigue before you would die from running out of meds.
I hate everything about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the biggest thing for me is that the quests are bad. Okay, cool. They're placeholders. Okay, cool. When we critique the quests, and by we I mean a few of us do fairly decently thought out videos, and then everybody else just reads on Reddit. We critique it, and they say we're gonna work on them and improve them. They go and spend a bunch of time reworking a bunch of the things, and they literally end up worse or the opposite, like of what we said was problematic. So all that tells me, I know they're placeholders, but all that tells me is that whoever's in charge of making the decisions about the quest and the quest design, they're missing something that I'm worried once they finally sit down and they say, okay, now let's come up with the real quest. It's just going to be the same problems with new quests. You know what I mean? it's indicative of a bigger problem.
Yeah, it's very likely that that would be the case, that if they don't learn what's wrong with them, that it's just going to keep snowballing.
Yep.
And then we're going to have, 120 some quests that all just suck. Like, I don't mind the find and raid feature, but there are certain items that are damn near impossible to find and raid.
I mean, so that's like that again. Maybe that's indicative of me not being good at explaining things. Now, people always say that my videos are too long and I could have made them shorter, but I tried to be very clear about what my criticisms were. And one of the examples, so I don't know if I'm the reason why the find and raid feature got added in, but not like a week or two before all of that happened is when I did my video on the quest design, basically saying how one of the example I gave was the debut quest where you have to kill scavs and then like collect the shotguns. I basically said like the whole point of the quest is not to collect shotguns, it's to prove that you killed the scavs, right? That's the whole point of like what he's telling you, like bring me back the shotguns to prove that you killed them. So my major critique of the quests were that if you really wanted me to prove that I killed the scavs, why are you limiting it to only scavs who are carrying a particular type of gun, right? It just seems arbitrary. Make it so that like you can collect the gun off of the scav, no matter what it is, to like prove that you collected it. Make it so that like there's a flag on the item to say that it was like a scav gun, so that later when you turn it in, it's not just something that you bought off, Prep War and turned it directly back into Prep War for the quest. They heard that and didn't see the point of the quest is to prove that you did it. They saw make it so that the things you find in the quests can't be purchased on the flea market or on the traders. It's like, that's not the problem. They're 1 degree away from the problem. The problem is that the stated motivations of the people giving you the quest don't make sense. Like put some items in their pockets that only scavs spawn with. Like the unknown key always spawns in that dead scav. Like give that to scavs and have that be the thing. Have it be an item you can't buy. Like you can't buy the unknown key from therapists. I mean, granted, you can get it on the flea market, but like have it be a totally different class of items, like the golden pocket watch. It's not something you can buy or sell. It's a quest item. The whole find and raid thing should go away, and they should all be items that aren't normal items. Then you don't have to worry about cheesing it. You don't have to worry about all the bugs associated with how they implemented find and raid and how it was fucked up for so long,
Yeah. Actually, good point to that is the fake flash drive. I don't know if you did that task called bullshit for Skier. The fake flash drive. I honestly don't mind that. The way that was implemented was actually pretty well done. The story was like, yeah, they ditched it in a car on the bridge. Okay, go to the car on the bridge, pick up the flash drive, go over to the dorms, drop the flash drive off at the dorms, and get the hell out without killing any scavs. I don't see a problem with that. That was really well implemented. The problem, though, that does lie with it is going to the dorms on customs and not killing any scavs and running into Rashala.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
You literally you can't complete the quest unless you leave. There's no other way to you can like flashbang them, I guess, and hope that they like walk away or stand behind them and hope that they go full on dirt mode. You know what I mean? But yeah,
probably try dragging them over to 2-story dorm and hope you don't get shot through the window. Like, it's just poor. But
and then if you complete the quest, it says complete, right?
Yeah.
And then if you kill scavs after that, you fail. So it's like little things like that. That's like, come on, like add another thing saying survive. At least I know the quest is still going on. But there's the ambiguity against like you complete a quest. Oh, I can die now and I'm fine. Versus I have to get out. Yeah, that quest is literal bullshit.
Yeah. So, do you think with Unity 2018 new engine for Tarkov, do you think it's going to bring a new generation of Tarkov, or is it going to be the same game, same bugs, same problems, different engine?
I don't think anything's going to change other than we might get a few minor optimizations, and I think the development will probably go faster. but from my understanding, limited understanding, because I'm not a game developer, but I know quite a few folks that are familiar with Unity, and I've, updated dependencies and software before. Not quite like an entire engine, but yeah, there's always a big initial workload. There ends up being a shit ton of bugs at the start. It takes a while to get over those bugs, and then from there it's smoother sailing going forward. But for the most part, when you do things like that, whether it's like architecture cleanup or cleaning up tech debt and software, the users see almost no difference in the end product. You just end up being faster to develop stuff going forward. So that's honestly what I venture will happen.
Well, I mean, with Unity 2018, we did get mention of a new lighting and new sound system. Do you think that that's beneficial with the current sound problems and so on?
To be determined.
To be determined.
It's hard to know. Like, it's easy to say, like, yeah, it's gonna be great, it's gonna fix it, but there's just too many variables, in my opinion, to know if, for all we know, it could be 10 steps backwards. Like, to me, the sound in the game, there's a bunch of known issue places, right? Like in customs on the 3-story dorms, you can't tell if they're above you or below you. And sometimes it sounds like they're next to you when they're actually above you or below you. That's a bug, right? The like ambiguity is different than the bug. When you're on there's the little like 90-degree stairs over by the what the hell's the red key room? Arsenal room in labs.
Yeah.
Where that little like glass kind of area is, like, you can be standing there and someone can walk up behind you and make zero noise. Like, that's a bug. Like, those are things that have nothing to do with the engine. It's probably just a bug. Otherwise, on most maps, I have no problem identifying where people are. There's a lot of context clues you can get if you hear like metal versus wood. They could solve a lot of those issues where if there's on dorms, make it so that the top floor has gravel, like rocks and grubble or whatever. The bottom floor has like some metal, it's like give you some context in the meantime for like almost no work to be able to deduce where people are, if the vertical sound is an issue. But 98% of the time, in my experience, and I know I'll get like crucified for this, but the sound is fine.
Oh no, I definitely agree. The sound is fine most of the time, but yeah, there's places where there are issues. I've had people walk up behind me without making a single footstep, and I'm wearing contacts, and I don't hear them. And they weren't slow walking; they were just walking because I thought they were above me or I thought they were below me, like not right next to me. But another thing with the lighting is, I don't know how often you see it, but some maps, you can have somebody below you shooting. I see this all the time on Shoreline. Somebody a floor below you shooting, and the hallway that you're in is lighting up like crazy.
Yeah, same with the flashlights go through the floors. You can see the raiders like looking at you through the wall, right, like honed in on you. Yeah, so I mean, who knows? I don't know enough about Unity to know if like they flip the switch and it'll solve those things, or if it involves they flip the switch and then now they need to build all the infrastructure to make all that work. And there's it's almost always they make all this progress, they kind of hit a tech debt hurdle where it's harder and harder and harder to kind of push past that ceiling. Then they finally do the update, a shit ton of stuff breaks, so there's like a decline, and then it's a much steeper curve upward, and then they get past like that glass ceiling that they were at before. That's my guess. It's my assumption as to what's going to happen, but I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah. So if we do get a full release, which if you're expecting that, you expect wipes with it, either the soft wipes where we just lose, our trader level and stuff like that, or full wipe where everybody gets reset on random intervals, set interval, seasonal, whatever it may be.
So I could answer that in two different ways. Do you want to know how I think they're going to do it, or do you want to know how I want them to do it?
Both.
So, there's probably there's a million ways they could do this, right? And there's probably a lot of other great ideas, some of them probably better than mine, but I would love it if they went like the Diablo 2 route, where there was like ladder, non-ladder, and maybe it's like 6 months, maybe it's 3 months. I don't know. I forget how long the ladders were because it's been like 15 years. But where you have, it's almost like a season, right? Where everybody starts off at level 1 and everybody's grinding, and you have the same progression. And then after some period of time, all of those people get transferred over to like the non-ladder, and the non-ladder is just one giant bucket for like everybody else, right? You have like all your legacy characters that are like level 98, you know what I mean? That are all like billionaires, and that's like one economy. And then there's like the ladder. But I don't think there should be like wipes, so to speak. Like, I think that you should ultimately be able to have like, honestly, similar to Diablo, where you should be able to have like 8 PMCs that are all different levels that, it all depends on how far they go the RPG route around like being able to give your characters different loadouts or customize them in some way. I don't know. Honestly, I think they need to for replayability, but all a wipe is it brings you back down to level 1 and it clears your trader levels and your skills. To me, it should take a really long time to get to level 100, like maybe a year of playing the game a shit ton. Because that's like, in Diablo, you could grind for hours and hours and hours a day, and you can get to level 80 in a day, you can get to level 90 in a week, 91 in a month, 92 in 3 months. You know what I mean? Like, it's a huge exponentially growing curve. There obviously needs to be some like benefit to grinding further and further at that point, but they should get rid of the trader leveling altogether, in my opinion. I've been saying for a long time that they need to have more interesting, large quantity, large reward loot on maps. Open up the mark room and there's like an item case filled with M995, like filled with it. If nobody's selling M9, if you can't buy it from Peacekeeper, you are now the like owner of the stock and the supply, and you are competing with maybe 2 or 3 other big suppliers, right? So like there's actual price pressures. It's not just 1,000 people all selling 18 rounds. There's not enough pressure for long enough for the prices to really get pushed down. There's not really much competition. All the competition's short term. So if they got rid of most of the stuff from the traders, like therapists should sell painkillers, bandages, AI2, maybe like a car med kit. Other than that, she should give you quests, and you can get rewards for the quests, but like don't unlock things to buy. Everything else you either need to find or buy on the flea market. So with those things, they don't need wipes, unless they make breaking changes to the game, which you shouldn't do after you release. And they need to figure out a way to make it so that it's playable for long periods of time without wipes. Otherwise, they've failed at designing a game. Because every other game, you can play Skyrim for 10,000 hours on the same character, right? You can play Diablo for 10,000 hours on the same character. In Tarkov, you just get bored, after 3 months and want to reset or do like your own hardcore challenge or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's multiple content creators that have spoken up and said that the way that we play Tarkov now is not the way to play, where we hoard money, buy whatever we want, and then go into raid. We die up, throw more shit together and, run it back. Like, there's a lot of people saying that the way to play Tarkov is definitely find your shit in raid, go in, play smart, hope you get out. Like, you should have a fear, a legitimate fear of dying. You shouldn't have gear
excitement for looting.
Exactly.
If you can buy everything, when's the last time I went to the fucking marked room? Like, there's no point, you know what I mean? Because it's far more advantageous for me to just go run labs, make money killing raiders, have fun with like the PvP and the PvE, and then buy everything instead of do grindy runs where I have a 2% chance of getting something, you know what I mean? Like
a key bar, a dox
But if
case.
you could go to the marked room and there was a thick item case filled with M4 uppers or something, like, holy shit, You know what I mean? Wouldn't that like that would make the economy so interesting? It would make raids more interesting because imagine having an item case in your bag full of shit. Like you'd be creeping, your heart would be racing. It would be like day one all over again, right? But now it's like if I fucking die, I either get half my stuff back in insurance or whatever. I'll just go buy new stuff. But yeah, there's no rarity, there's no scarcity, there's no excitement, and it's because you can buy anything anytime for pretty much dirt cheap. So,
Well, another thing that I like that at some point it was brought up, key spawns currently are pretty much set locations. Like, for example, the Red Arsenal key spawns 218 West, 218 East. It can spawn on the scabs in West 306. It can spawn down in the basement of East, or West. It can spawn, in these multiple locations, but you're only ever really going to find it there. Maybe 1 in a million chance you find it in a scav backpack. So
yeah.
you've created this, economy where people are rushing to find this item. So they're running it over and over again with no gear. And so we end up with hatchlings and stuff doing these key runs. I went into 218 West, I want to say like last night when I was running around just bullshitting, and I found 3 dead hatchlings inside 218. They all disconnected. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't want to fight anybody anyways, it's like, it's so in the future, they're taking away these set spawns. So like where you think something spawns now, like you have so much more area to search to find good loot. So you have to spend your time in raids. You have to go walk around. Finding players and killing them is going to be even more advantageous because maybe they looted something. Now you don't have to do it. Now you can just take what they have if you want it, and they can. So,
like what they should do is just make like, and I don't know how it's developed, but like downstairs in that gym area, right? There's like 3 places where things spawn. Why don't they make it so that like in the basement there's like 50 potential, like every shelf, every drawer, every chair, like make it a spawn point for nearly everything. Decrease the chances so that it's really rare, but like it's not immersive when I'm running and I'm like, look at the 3rd chair, look at the 2nd shelf, look at, you know what I mean? Like and they said today on the podcast, or at least assuming it was translated correctly, that dynamic spawns aren't going to be in 0.12. So it's like we have even longer to wait, I guess, to see what the spawn system for loot is going to be like.
Yeah, I definitely think that
don't know.
the lack of actual searching, like you're not actually searching, you're just looking in set locations. Like actual deep hardcore scavenging and searching needs to be a thing. I need to spend like of my longer raids where I literally just go through room to room, just opening up, looking around on Shoreline, I spent like 50 minutes in there. I'm racing the clock to get out.
Yeah.
So like those are the raids that are actually kind of fun because you have players just running through, you have player scavs. You don't know what's going to happen. You have like a bunch of random stuff on you, but it's valued stuff, and like it'd be nice that if, let's say I go out of my way and I search that greenhouse down in the swamp as I'm leaving a raid, and I just find like a Bitcoin or an RSAS or like something.
There's nothing there now, so you literally don't go there.
Well, there is a few things that could potentially spawn there, but like of all the houses,
like most of the houses though, like most of them have nearly nothing, So yeah,
bring these areas of the map that have absolutely nothing some value. Like, give me a reason to go out of my way and stop at Batilli and search everything. Like there's one weapons case. There's a weapons cache there. That's one. That's it.
Yep.
There's not really much else. You can probably get a condensed milk.
But like at the old gas station on Customs, right? How like the magic shelf table where like anything can spawn.
Yeah.
Like every fucking table in the game should be like that because you spawn over by like the ambulances by the tunnel, that little town, on Shoreline. Like I never look in any of those buildings any of those rooms. I don't open up the fucking jackets. I don't go in the kitchens. I've never even explored it ever because there's no point. Like, because I know that I would have heard about some rare Bitcoin spawn there because, you know, I would be going there. You know what I mean? So if all of those places had the potential to spawn anything, and I don't even like, they can make it so that it doesn't increase the chances of finding anything. You know what I mean? Like, rather than have one place that has a 1 in 10 chance of spawning something good, make 10 places that have a 1 in 100 chance each. You know, or I don't know if they'd have to connect the chances of. I don't know how the spawns work. If it's connected to your skills or if it's all predetermined when, you know, the loot loads in. But like, make it so that, you know, if a Bitcoin spawns in place A and place B, well, then there's no more Bitcoins allocated for this raid. You know what I mean? Like, if they're worried about making it too OP, that there's a bunch of like magic infinite item spawn places there, then there's ways around it. But yeah, that would change the game completely, for sure. And the other thing that would change the game completely too is making it so that the scav bosses could be anywhere at any time. They didn't just always spawn in one of, like, you know, if Reshala didn't spawn in one of 2 locations at the beginning of the raid. Imagine if Reshala was guaranteed to spawn 100% of the time, every raid, but it could be the first minute, it could be the last minute. I would be patrolling back and forth between gas station and dorms for 40 minutes. You know what I mean? Waiting for like the gunshots to pop off. Then it gets rid of the whole linear. I'm not going from point A to B to C to extract. Now it's like I'm going around in a circle patrolling, and there's this whole other. It would change the timing of raids. It would change the meta. It would change the PvP, the PvE. I think that'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, even if you change it so that they're not locked to a certain location, but they like to be in certain locations, so like they would prefer to be down at the gas station or they would prefer to be at the dorms, and you give them multiple ways to enter the map, so like they can enter from the car extract just north of the dorms, or they can enter from one of the gates by the train, where the train yard ends, just behind the gas station. Have it so that gate opens up.
They must already have logic around like the distribution of players to figure out like what spawn locations are open. Kind of
if-then systems.
Yeah.
I figured I've kind of had that similar thought that like I feel as though my spawn is pretty like active. Like if I spawn on custom side where the big red barn is, I feel like there's a lot more players, and then by the time that I get to the gas station, there's actually Reshala, and then like on the other side probably 1 or 2 other players. Like it's I feel as though when it's
there's a whole rhythm. It's just not good in my opinion. It takes away from the core soul of the game, which is to be immersive and unpredictable and dynamic and exciting and scary. You know, I remember back in the day where you'd spawn into factory in red blinky, instantly go prone and watch the guy peek you. The first 3 seconds you'd have 2 kills, and it was like, because you just knew. That's completely antithetical to what a lot of us love the game for, and what I think Nikita is going for. But I just don't know if he or anybody over there really plays enough to really get a sense of what it's like now and where it's going. It's really hard to get that sense. You get so close to the software that you know, and where it is and where you want it to be, that you kind of get too far away from the actual user experience.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, what I would like to see is like more spawn areas with like valid like spawning regions. So like we'll say it's spawning regions, areas in which you can spawn that don't expose you to other players that have already spawned, you know, so that way I could either spawn, let's say I can spawn in the bus depot at one custom side of customs by the big red. I can spawn over there, and either I can have players over by the bus in the corner or in the forest, or they can spawn inside of the warehouse area, or like I shouldn't be able to be like, okay, I spawned here, there's potential spawn over there and over there, and I can run over there, check it out, scan it out. Like I don't want to, like, I'd rather say, okay, where the hell are people? Like,
If
let
there's
me, like-
loot everywhere and spawns everywhere, it solves the problem. The only reason why they have to have set spawns is because they want them to be equidistant from like the loot, right? You can't spawn people too close to dorms, otherwise that one spawn is OP. But if dorms isn't the place where all of the loot is, if it can be anywhere, then you can spawn people not just on the perimeter of the map, you can spawn them everywhere. You know, and that's as close as you can get right now to having like an open raid, you know, like an open map, open world. Because that's what the open world is supposed to be like, right? It's supposed to be like at any time anybody can be coming or going with empty or completely full. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Like that's what's going to be cool. Like to me, this is like the first step. You know? But,
yeah. So as another solo player, I understand why solo play is a lot easier. AOS is so easy to do as a solo player. But even now and then, you get an itch that you need to scratch where you want to play with somebody. So, as a solo player who is one content creator, if you could, you would just be like if they would say, "Let's play," and you're just like, "Yep, okay, no problems, right now, let's do it."
Easy, smoke. Like I would turn off my webcam, and it would be only in-game voice comms, no Discord. It would just be full on like, oh my god, I would love that, because he's the one that can basically not directly but indirectly convince me to start streaming. Yeah, no, I would love that. I would love to be able to like put on that immersive cinematic experience with Smoke, like finding a hatchling and having me and him like fucking around with a hatchling, getting him geared up. You know what I mean? Like killing scavs and player scavs, and no, it'd be super rad. I would love to do that.
The double immersion stream where you get it from both angles would make for such an amazing, you know, like YouTube video and series and so on. Just like seeing this very what should be immersive game with two very immersive viewpoints would be amazing. It would be changing to the game.
For sure.
And so with recently we just got an increase to recoil because people were complaining that the recoil system where it auto like recoil controls for you has made, you know, like the game just shite. But now this 30% increase to recoil has made certain guns unusable, like the AKMs and stuff, the 7.62 variant AKs and the SA58 on top of that. They're pretty much unusable. Their recoil is massive, and that's kind of like, in my opinion,
I would disagree, I think, but
well, here's my thing: is I would have rather have seen a dynamic change to recoil where M4s and HKs got a little bit more of a bump, like they got 40 or 50% recoil change. So that way, if I spend, you know, a ton of money into my AKM, I can get the recoil down to something that's very usable, you know, and unlike where if I put a couple $100 or, you know, $1,000 into an M4 and it's the same recoil.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces there, right? Because
you're talking ammo and you're talking,
it kind of comes down to DPS, right? It's how much damage, how much penetration is coming from that round, from that gun, how quickly, right? You can get a shit ton of damage very fast. Like, I think if you just look at like the raw like DPS, if you just take like the flesh damage multiplied by the fire rate, like the Clin is the best gun in the game. Why does nobody use the Clin? Because the ammo's garbage. And it has like no recoil too. To me, the most I hate the realism argument because it's a fucking game and I want it to be fun. I want it to be like immersive. To me, immersion is bigger than realism, and more important at least. Shooting the AK like 74U, like the little stubby 74. Yeah. I've owned AK-47s, semi-automatic. I've shot fully automatic AKs, fully automatic M4s. I have an AR-15. I've shot just about every major sort of caliber there is from most types of guns. And I will say the most realistic feeling guns in this game are the Glock and the AK-74 SU or whatever, in terms of recoil. This is coming from somebody who's not like a soldier, you know, so I don't know if that's necessarily a fair comparison, but I don't mind the recoil at all. At the same time, you and I both know, especially with the video I just put out on like value per slot on loot, that some of the most expensive stuff are the attachments for guns. If I'm spending 30K on a gun and 150K on attachments, if I'm not making the gun 20 times better, it's not fucking worth it. You know what I mean? You get such diminishing returns with modifying guns that I think all the guns should be shitty stock, but still usable if you're like controlled and you can like aim a headshot, you know, like a stock Vepr or, you know, SKS. One shots here or there are good enough to do the trick most of the time, even with like PS ammo. But I'm of the mindset where I think they should be shitty stock and like really, really fucking good with a bunch of modifications to them, because otherwise what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I know they want to balance it, whether it comes to guns or whether it comes to players and armor. They want to balance it so that it's like people aren't unkillable. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like if I'm grinding for 6 months to get to level 70, level 80, level 90, and I have the end game gear, and I'm 3% more likely to survive, you know, or whatever, compared to, or I have 5% less recoil than the level 2 with the stock gun. Like, what's the point? You know?
Yeah.
Like we play games to feel like gods, you know? Like, I don't want to be unkillable, but I still think I should be able to like run twice as fast, carry twice as much shit, handle maybe a couple more bullets, you know, and maybe have access to some stuff that other people might not have access to, because I have been doing it for, you know, the equivalent of 20 years. I'm like the grizzled veteran, you know.
Yeah.
There's got to be some advantage there, but there's ways to keep it balanced. I think they just need to be clever about it. Who knows if they will be.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we'll be right back with more about the creator after the word from our sponsor.
Madrinas, madrinas, it's the coffee I drink every morning. Drinking that vanilla cold brew. Living a life just like a movie star.
This. So we're back with more about the creator, Mr. Veritas here. So, easy enough, how many guitars do you have, and which one is your favorite?
I actually don't know how many I have. I have over a dozen. A lot of them are at my old man's house. He's got a big kind of studio, unofficial studio in his basement that, you know, we used to jam in a lot. There's just tons of cases all over the place, a bunch that I grabbed that are all shitty and old from when I was first learning. But yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got like 10 in this room right now. And then I have a handful at my old man's house. My favorite is probably the Paul Reed Smith, though. I wanted one of these for so long, and it's just the most versatile, beautiful, wonderful machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a beautiful piece.
Yep.
But the other day you were showing off a piece of wood that your dad is making you a guitar out of.
Yep.
And that's kind of the combination of everything you've loved in guitars. So it's going to be like your favorite body style, neck style, everything down to the
it's a mixture of, well, so I've always loved the look of Telecasters, but I've never loved the sound. Like, I'm not really like a country twangy kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go for like a classic, really nice Telecaster look, but it's gonna be full on like modern shred. Like, the neck is gonna be really thin. It's gonna have like a slightly different scale length. It's gonna have different pickups in it, so it's not gonna be, you know, it's gonna be like pulling up to the guy who's got like that interesting looking, you know, van, you know, and he revs up his engine next to your Mustang, and blows you out of the water. It's going to be a sleeper for sure. So I'm looking forward to him finishing that thing up for me.
I'm gonna be interested in seeing that thing too, because that was a really nice piece of wood. So it's gonna be really pretty.
Yeah, he's a craftsman for sure when it comes to anything woodworking. So we'll see.
Fun. Definitely look forward to seeing it. So if you had a couple $1,000, money you just had to burn today, what would you do with it?
A couple thousand to burn today. I'd probably buy. Oh man, a couple thousand to burn today. I'd probably buy. There's this sword that I've wanted for a long time. This guy, I was actually showing it on stream. This guy, I think his name's Jeffrey Robinson. He makes he's a blacksmith that does like all this beautiful bronze work and like woodwork and leather work and all this stuff to make these gorgeous, like beautiful blades.
Artisan blades.
I've never been into like swords or anything like that, but I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and just seeing, especially now with playing Mordau, just seeing like, oh, the blades that this guy makes. He's got like full replicas of like the Master Sword, and there's all these gorgeous. I mean, like, you should see the quality of these things is fucking phenomenal. They're not like fake prop blades, like they're legitimate. Like if this was full steel, like they'd kill people. They're meant to be basically functional works of art. I think if I had like 3K and I had to spend it like right now, I'd probably just put an order in, for one of those things. I want to say guitar, but I've already got a bunch of those, so might as well splurge and get something that I wanted for a while.
Something new.
Yep.
I definitely feel that. There's a lot of good blacksmiths on YouTube that are really fun to watch, and they make a lot of good stuff. And I think anybody that has any type of hard work appreciation for pure craftsmanship, something that it's hard to say no to something like that.
For sure.
But if you were to change something about your setup instead, what would it be? Like any upgrades or changes?
I have like 10 webcams, but I've had issues for the longest time with issues with like USB stuff, and Windows doesn't like a bunch of webcams all plugged into like the same bus. I would love to upgrade my video setup so that I could have like professional grade video switcher, and something like a nice DSLR on like a moving rail, where I can play guitar, hit the camera, hit my Stream Deck button and have it like be a back shot that's like moving while I'm playing, that's like the next step towards making my show that much closer to being like a professional friggin', scheme I've got here. So yeah,
that'd be pretty cool to see. Be pretty cool to see like a little light rail for your phone or for the camera, and it goes back and forth.
Yep.
It'd be really cool to see something like that. Be hell to wire it, but I guess like a wireless signal. But
I've got no issues with wires in this room, trust me. I've got all the wires everywhere.
How many wires are there in that room? Probably a actual, like, if a fire marshal looked at your house, he would say there's a problem.
Almost definitely. I've got more wires in this like 2-inch
I saw that
than most people have in their entire PC setup.
So like for someone like me that's not huge into music, like I mean I love listening to music and I have a real appreciation for it and so on and so forth, but like guitar and drums and stuff, I don't know how, like I know how it's all recorded, but what is that? Because you just bought that the other, like a couple weeks ago, that big old box.
Yeah, so it's basically like a full-on custom built by me rack setup. So I used to have like, because I have a 2 PC setup, so I had a mixer. I used to have like a mixer over kind of at arm's reach, but this mixer is pretty big. It takes up a lot of space, right? There's like I'd constantly be hitting it with my mouse. It was taking up the space of almost like a second monitor that I could be putting there. and I even though I have a lot of desk space, there's so many more things I want to add. I'd run out of space. So what I wanted to do is, rather than build out, build up. So I bought this rack and combined as much as I could into one setup. So this whole thing, it has basically one plug going in, which is my guitar, and one plug going out, which is a power cable. Everything else is self-contained, so that if I ever wanted to like move my setup, I could just unplug it from the wall, pick up the box, and move it. And I have 2 mixers, all of the stuff to reduce the hum, the noise. I have a full cooling system up here to keep the temperature down, because these are fans up here, which you probably can't tell. This is like my guitar rig. I got a guitar tuner. This is for my microphone, so it's like a preamp, compressor, noise gate, all that stuff, so I don't have to do any post-processing. When I do like voiceovers and stuff, before I used to have to put an EQ on and put a compressor and noise reduction, and it was so much more time. Now literally everything is right in this box. And then a full-on power supply here, so it's got like 10 power outlets in the back, so anytime I want to add something else, I just screw it in here, plug it in the back, and it's all self-contained. So it was a way to get rid of a ton of shit and wires taking up space everywhere and put it into kind of one box.
Honestly, it's impressive. Like, it's beautiful. Like, it was really well done, honestly.
It was a spur of the moment thing. I honestly wasn't even going to do it. I was going to do a bunch of other things, get like some shelving systems and some other things. And then I looked into rack setups, and if it wasn't for me looking into a rack, I would have never discovered or bought this amp. I would have never gotten this tuner. Like, as soon as I discovered it, it all just fell into place. I'm like, wow, I can get like the rack equivalent of all of these things. Yeah, and then a lot of Googling. I basically designed this in like 4 hours.
Impressive. Very impressive. All right. So if you could make a game and combining any aspects from movie, TV, other games, comics, anything, what would it be? Like, what would the story be like? What would the gameplay be like? Indulge us.
All right. So I think I could probably mash up like 4 things into one here. Have you ever seen The Revenant?
Yes.
So like the tone of The Revenant, like out in the wilderness, almost like no talking, it's just all like raw emotion. That's the one with Leo DiCaprio. Yeah. Out in the fucking wilderness and his son gets killed or whatever. Yeah. So imagine that tone with an open world like Skyrim, combat like Mordau, and like an inventory kind of raid system like Tarkov. The ability to like put on your fucking backpack, that's made of like bear skin or whatever, grab your axe and like go out into the open wilderness and like kill deer, skin them. It's all like open world, first person, but then all of a sudden you hear like crunching in the distance and you look off and you see a fucking dude sitting there with a sword, and he's got like a horse behind him and, a bag full of like berries and apples and, whatever. And it's just like, no words are spoken. What do you do? Do you fucking kill the guy and take his shit, or do you just let him go on his way? Just the idea of like an open world PvP, PvE, no zombies or anything like that, just animals and other people. Oh my god, that'd be so rad. And when you get into a fight, like you kill somebody, like you lose what you had on you. I don't know if I wouldn't want to do like a permadeath system. There would be, if I did it would be like a hardcore server where like you had one life. But it would be
booted
very
from the server.
It would be very hard. I don't want to say very hard to die, but like I want it to be like punishing, where people aren't just gonna like run up and like try to fight no matter what. Like 2 people would have to be either confident enough in their combat that they will win, or be so desperate that they have like nothing to lose. But like I want it to be like after a couple seconds of like fighting, like or someone's running and you're like tripping over like fucking roots and you like sprain your ankle and you're like limping and you're out of breath and your heart's racing. Like I want it to be like super hyper realistic. You lop off your arm, like you don't have an arm anymore. Like shit like that. I would fucking love it. I would play the shit out of that game. Yeah, Mordau, Skyrim, Tarkov, The Revenant. Put them all together. All hand-to-hand combat, maybe some bows and stuff too.
So something that I'm kind of picking up from it is very like first-person adventure, nothing stray from that. What if the combat system was pretty much it's a no-kill system. Like you have one life, it's a no-kill system, but for your player to actually lose his life, he would have to have accepted a duel with a nefarious character, as in somebody that has been like stealing things and they will kill you. Like they will actually execute you. So like you would accept a loss or you can fight to your death.
Would that be the equivalent of like playing for pinks? You know, like or driving
Yes.
for pinks, where it's like you can race and you'll lose and you'll like
You'll
lose and
couple $100.
yeah, or you can go for pinks and you're out of car and the game's over. If you're like that confident, yeah, no, I think that could be a really interesting way around it. Like you get fucked up if they lop your arm off and you're like unconscious, you just like wake up in your hut with like a bandage on or something and all your shit's gone.
You just you wake up in somebody else's hut because they found you lying there and they patched you up or they took you to a doctor. That would be definitely interesting to see.
But what I don't want NPCs.
So like you want people to have their own skills. You want to have to find a player that's a doctor that, you know, pretty much just sits in his house and learns medicine. Like he knows how to fight.
Not quite that, but like so let's say on the flip side, right? Like you just went hunting, you've got like your deer pelt in the back you're dragging along with like your sled full of fucking vegetables and rabbit, you know, that you were able to kill or whatever, bludgeon and, you know, maybe some stuff or some tools or something, and then you just see a guy writhing in a red snowy puddle in his own blood. It's like, take him back, bring him back and patch him up. I don't know if it would be like a full in-depth thing or if it was just like heal, you know, or maybe it's actually like you have to have some sort of skills. But yeah, like being able to like make a friend. There's something about the Revenant having like, for most of that, having like no talking that almost makes me want the game to be like almost borderline like caveman, like no VoIP, no text. I don't know, just something about
body language and
yeah. Like imagine just fucking standing there, like you've got all your shit, you've got your weapon, and it's like, is this on or not? Like, you know, and the guy kind of puts his stuff down and steps towards you. You're like, okay, like I guess it's on. You're like, or you have a nod and you walk away. You know, I don't know. I think that'd be so rad. Just being able to like build like your hut, you know, almost kind of like Minecraft where it's like cut down trees. You know, maybe this is like Rust, I guess, but better than Rust.
Without the toxic community screaming, you know, expletives that you can't even stream.
Yeah, exactly. I want to live in the wilderness, have my life be at the whim of, you know, a bear or a blade, you know, and make my own log cabin and have it be like somewhere that I like want to go and want to live and like be able to build it wherever I want, next to the stream or, you know, next to this apple tree on top of a hill. Or that's honestly one of my favorite parts about Minecraft was some of the, like, you could go to places and have it be like, oh, this is like a really nice little place. It's like a little alcove with like a waterfall, and imagine that, but with like Skyrim, like modded Skyrim graphics, like HD.
Yeah. The 2K, 4K res packs and all that. Oh yeah. That would be definitely interesting. That's something I want to get my hands on, especially if they added a VR aspect to it. I know VR is something that's still up there. World of like, good, is it bad, is it?
Yeah.
But it would definitely, there's certain things that VR can really make you feel that looking at a monitor and that sense of immersion would go amazing.
Yep, for sure.
Thank you for talking today. I appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. We definitely had some great conversations.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Of course. Great day, man.
Yeah, you too.